Here we go.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Shireen, and of course, we have Mr. Garrett going. We're going to talk about some juicy, soulful stuff today. You ready? Are you ready? Garrett's kind of geeking out right now on the other side, making sure we're up online on all the platforms. So, thank you for being the first few to be with us. Today, we're going to talk about the secret message encoded in your soul. We're about to get real philosophical, guys. Are you with it? Can you please comment me and tell me if you're down for some philosophy in your lives right now? Because it's about to get geeky. All right, good. I think we're up on some of Facebook platforms. We're up on YouTube. I think we're all over town, y'all. We're ready to do.
All right, we are now going. Okay, we're on Facebook and YouTube. Here we are. All right, hello everybody. Okay, so let me see if we can get our chat up. Boom. Hopefully this works. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to get Facebook chat out of this thing, unfortunately.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay, so we'll just have to keep track of the Facebook chats. If you're on Facebook and you want to chat with us, we'll be trying to check the chat there, but you can also get on Twitch. There's a link to the Twitch in the Facebook description. So go ahead and shoot us there. Hello from Florida. How you doing? All right. I'm going to reset this chat one more time just in case we can get our Facebook people in. Otherwise, that'll be that.
That's right. So Garrett's doing his techie thing over there.
Okay. No, it doesn't look like we're going to get Facebook.
That's okay. I'll manage. I'll check out. Yeah, I'll let it all out, baby. Let it out. I will keep an eye on the Wayseer page and the Garrett John Laporta Facebook page. So I'll make sure if you guys are chatting us, that we hear you. See, Albert, thank you. He's chatting. I like it. We got it, buddy.
Okay.
We got Candy and Miha. Okay, everybody's, the party started. I like that we're doing it.
Cool. All right.
So, Garrett, what inspired you to talk about the secret message encoded in your soul? Because I love that shit. Like, I'll talk about that all day.
Well, have you ever noticed that sometimes when you get your mind set on something and you try really hard at it, it's like nothing you can do will make it work. Nothing. It's like you're just like, what is going on here? Why am I just being stymied and stopped and stuck? It's like there's something in our lives that seems to guide us, and when you try to go away from your soul's direction, it's like there's this like secret message in your soul that is active in your life, and by really paying attention to what's going on with you and with your life, you start to see this message playing out. So that's kind of what I was getting at, and there's more to it than that, but I'm just a little bit distracted right now just because I'm noticing one of our YouTube channels doesn't look like it's hit yet, so I'm wondering what's going on there. And looks like our chats have died on YouTube, so I don't know whether we're just not getting through on YouTube, or it looks like, maybe we are. Maybe we're getting through on YouTube. So I'm just going to trust that it's there. By all means, say hello. Okay, there we go. Hello from UK. Good. Thank you. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, you're helping Garrett trust right now. That's what we need.
Yes. All right, good.
Okay, good.
All right, good.
I'm like legit excited about this topic because I feel like this is like the story of my life. Me having been sort of programmed by my family and my very traditional culture to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, but that my soul was this very like philosophical, creative, out of the box weirdo monkey who wants to do Facebook Lives with Garrett. I couldn't fit the mold. So I love this topic because I feel like sometimes we're almost plagued by this secret message encoded in our souls that like won't go away until we answer the call.
Yeah. And in fact, it's like, it's even more than that. It's that there's, no matter, there's the idea right now circulating in our culture that you can sort of do anything you want to do. Anything you put your mind to, you can do it. That's sort of the wisdom, and it's kind of true. It's like anything you put your mind to that's in alignment with your soul's secret message will have the wind. You'll have the wind in your sails and the wind at your back. But anything you put your mind to that's at odds with your soul's sort of secret
Yeah.
purpose is going to just be a shit show. It's going to be a very difficult experience. Nothing will work well. Everything will kind of get in your way. You'll make stupid mistakes or even do things that don't look like mistakes that turn out to be mistakes. And it's like, so then there is this fight. So it seems like a great secret to life is discovering the secret of your soul, the secret message and purpose of your soul. That is the great secret to living a fulfilled life, is to unravel that, unveil that, dig it up, find it. So that's what we're talking about today. Like, how do you find that? How do you discover that secret message that your soul has for you? And that once you realize what that is, then there's an alignment that can happen, which, man, I think that's the ticket.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's actually a Mark Twain quote about this. He says the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and then the day that you find out why. And I just totally agree. I just feel like, man, just sometimes you're here and you're doing your thing and you're living life, but there's a little bit of feeling like a derelict, a little like in an aimless life where you're like, but why though? Like, what's the purpose? Like, I feel like all of us search for that self-actualization of like, why are we here? What is the purpose of my soul walking this planet? What am I meant to do? And like, ask that question until we don't have to ask it anymore because we have to some degree figured it out. And I just feel like, man, then you're like on purpose, on fire. And like you said, like the winds at your back. There's another quote. I'm just going to geek out on quotes right now. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Joseph Campbell quote where he says, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors for you where there were only walls. And it's just the same thing that you're talking about, of that wind like behind you where you're like, wow, like things are just really opening up because I'm finally doing what I'm meant to be doing. My secret message encoded in my soul is being expressed versus what other people thought I should do, or how like I was trying to fit the status quo, or the ways that we try to fit ourselves into like, we're a square peg in a round hole kind of a thing,
Yeah. Shireen, just one little thing. If you could just move your camera angle just a little bit so that the comments aren't over your face. Do you know which way that needs to be?
Oh, well, let's see. Garrett.
Let's give it a shot. Oh, other way.
This way. Is this better?
Yeah. Let's see. Talk.
Okay, yeah. Is this better? Am I not being...
Yeah, there you go. It's perfect. That's great. That's great. Somebody asked, what's the best way to connect you with Donnie Epstein? Epstein, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Garrett at Wayseers.com. That's GARRET at WAYSEERS.com. Send an email there, and happy to read it. Okay, so back to the purpose thing. It's like your soul is encoded with a journey it wants you to go on. It's a heroic journey, and that heroic journey is going to challenge you, and it's going to make you stronger, and it's going to make you better, and it's going to give you this elixir, this truth, this healing that brings your soul, evolves your soul to the next level. And that is your sort of secret purpose and secret mission in life. Oh, secret mission, man. That's what we should have called this. So you've got a secret mission, and the secret mission is something that you were born with, and you don't even know what it is because it's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't, and you need to know, but you don't need to know all of it, because if you knew all of it, that would really screw with you, right? Like you don't want to know the ending to the movie. So
that is so true. I mean, yes, and there's actually something really beautiful about slowly peeling back the layers of the onion and slowly seeing it all unfold. Like, I remember when I finally branded Awaken the Rebel, I actually didn't even think of myself as a rebel. I thought of like the people I attracted as clients as rebels. And then I thought back to high school and how I was like technically considered a popular kid, but sort of didn't want to hang with the popular kids because I didn't like the way that they looked down on other people or put themselves above other people. They sort of had like ethics and morals that I wasn't into. So I was this weird rebel girl, but I didn't, at the time, it made no sense. At the time, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, everyone wants to be popular. Shouldn't I like this scene? I hate this scene. I just hated high school. So it's just funny how like 20 years later, I become the person that I am now. And I'm like, oh, it was always there. It was always there in its own way. There was this undercurrent of rebellion that I would never have picked up on because I was just a good girl, Garrett. Just a good girl. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like being the good kid, and your parents will beat it into you. Your teachers will beat it into you. Society will beat it into you. And being good is just conforming to somebody's rules and expectations. And is that really what's good? I mean, the truth is, no one ever knows the impact of your actions as it will affect everyone and everything throughout the course of eternity. Like, you might do something that seems horrible, but you also might have killed Hitler accidentally. So it's like there is always this weird wiggle room where even something that seems like an atrocious crime that makes you a bad person, it could be done, and it could be something that you were here to do that turned into a really good thing. Now, I'm not advocating doing anything violent or atrocious, but what I am advocating is recognizing that there's a lot of things that society frowns on, that your parents might frown on, that people might say is bad, that really isn't qualitatively bad, but is just a sort of precondition of our industrialized society, and that's how they want you to tick so that the clocks get made, the cars get made,
Yeah. This is why I think that Wayseer manifesto was so powerful for so many people. I feel like you gave them permission to be weird and wild, to let their freak flag fly a little bit. And they were like, oh my God, it's okay that I'm different. It's okay that I'm this person who is not the norm. I feel like, man, that's what so many of us want and need, is just to feel like it's okay to be the truth of ourselves in our own skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, and I appreciate you saying that. And I'm so distracted by our technology. I want our Facebook comments, which I can't even pull up Facebook comments, by the way. So, Shireen, I need you to be actively reading those comments, because I have an extra computer as backup so that I could read the Facebook comments if they didn't come through this thing. And that computer just died. So it's like, oh my God.
Okay, so I'm reading right now. So Demetrius is talking about revolution, evolution, love, unconditional, infinite, eternal. He's just like poetry right now.
Okay, well, just if there's any important comments that have a question or something salient that should be mentioned, I'm counting on you, Shireen, to let me know. And,
well, here's one. Here's a question. Karina asks, what about self-sabotage? Can we not do that when we're on our soul's purpose path?
Oh, well, we can always self-sabotage, but the real question, we can always do that. But the real question is, what is self-sabotage? Is self-sabotage, doing something that throws you into your heroic journey? So often, if you ever watch a movie that's a heroic journey, you'll notice that there's this moment where there's a calling that the hero falls into, and it seems like a bad situation. So, that hero might say, oh my God, here I go again, self-sabotaging. I'm on this, I'm with this crazy guy from the desert named Obi-Wan on this banged up spaceship running from the Imperial starships. It's like, okay. It's like, that's like running from the cops. You find yourself in some beat up jalopy running from the cops, and you're like, oh my God, here I go self-sabotaging again. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is the beginning of a great heroic adventure for you that your soul is here to experience and to have. So it's not always self-sabotage when things don't seem to be going right. Sometimes when they're not going right, that's like the beginning of your secret mission. And it's like, now embrace all this shit that's happening. It's like, okay, your secret mission has begun. Watch out. They're going to be throwing things at you. So, so that's the first thing. But then the second thing is, okay, when you're on your secret mission, and this is your heroic journey, and then you start doing things that are not courageous, not heroic, okay? That is when you might be self-sabotaging in a negative way. When you are being driven by fear and not addressing the things that are coming your way, and instead cowering from your calling, your heroic calling, then that could be self-sabotage. That's where you kind of curl up, get under the blanket, try to hide your head from life, and that isn't going to serve you. And that is something that we would most definitely describe as a soul sabotage. Forget self-sabotage, that's soul sabotage. And versions of soul sabotage are often expressed through addictive tendencies. So whatever you're addicted to, whether that's too much internet, whether that's porn, whether that's sex addiction, whether that's shopping addiction, whether that's drinking too much, some kind of drugs, just smoking weed all the time. Like, you know, granted, a lot of people say, you know, weed's not addictive, but habits are habits. And if you're just doing anything to excess, what it's likely doing is blocking you from your secret mission, from your soul's heroic journey. So to get on your heroic journey, you got to make space for that. You got to be awake and alive for that. And if you're not awake and alive, and if you're not doing things that are actively engaging in the world, then chances are you are self-sabotaging. And that's, yeah.
That's a really helpful qualifier, actually. If you're moving from fear or courage, or fear or love, I don't know what the positive version is, but that's a really good qualifier.
Yeah, and so I'm noticing the Wayseer Manifesto is coming up a bunch, and you know that, and someone says that they have ADHD, and the Wayseer Manifesto helped them. If the Wayseer Manifesto resonates with you, well, that is a clear indication that you are a natural-born explorer. And when you're a natural-born explorer, that means that you need to go on these journeys. Your soul's secret mission is like a visceral need in you. And if you are ignoring that visceral need, then you will find all sorts of depression and abdication and what do you call it? When you just can't even get out of bed in the morning, and addictive tendencies and distractibility, and you know, there's an old saying, if the game you're playing isn't big enough, you'll do something to fuck it up just to make it more interesting. And that is very much what you are at risk of doing if you are not exploring this universe that you are in, your world, exploring your world and going on that adventure. And that is what people with ADHD, creative types, bipolar, people who have addictive personalities. There's so many ways to describe the dysfunctions that happen when you are not embracing your heroic calling. And that's the big opportunity, is embrace your heroic calling, and all of those disorders, those personality disorders that society would label you with, fall away, because now you are truly engaged in something big enough to keep your attention. You won't be ADHD when you're on your heroic calling, because you will have your attention firmly fixed on your mission, and you will be amazingly attentive to the things that need to be done. Hyper focus is your gift if you have ADHD, and hyper focus is super attention. But the funny thing about people with ADHD is it's either like you're 100% on or you're 100% off. And that when you're off, now you're just this distractible mess, and that's a disorder. But when you're on, you have more attention to give projects and things and missions than just about anybody else out there. You have that superpower of hyper-focused attention, which is like laser beam, bright halogen light, boom kind of attention. That is something you have at your disposal. God bless you. Like that's a great gift. But the only way that gift shows up is if you're doing something big enough, interesting enough, engaging enough, heroic enough to elicit that kind of attention.
Garrett, bro, you're on fire. Speaking the truth. We have another. Yeah, boom, drop that mic. We have another one from Helen. She said, I almost died from cancer 2 years ago, had to recover for a year. Now I'm so full of life, like pouring over with life, love, and excitement, but I don't know what direction that I should go.
Well, okay, so you just got through a heroic journey, so you might need a rest. Don't put on yourself that you need to get on the next journey. Another element of Wayseer types or Wayseers or Da Vinci types, we call them, or people with ADHD, or explorers, or creative types. There's so many different words we could call it. But there's this element of that you're very open to the adventure, and that's awesome. And that means you can overcome things like cancer with your amazing life force and determination, and you can overcome like the greatest challenges. And after you do that, you're gonna probably need to rest. It's like, so sprint and then rest, sprint and then rest. Some might say like life is a marathon. I don't think people of our type like really long duration challenges. We're much better with sprinting to that immediate goal, going through that difficult year, maybe two, but then take a break. And then even inside that, you might be on for a week and off for a week, on for 2 weeks, off for a week. That's okay. On really hard for 2 or 3 days, off for a day. On really focused for 2 or 3 hours, making incredible artwork, creativity, poetry, writing, engineering, innovating, and then, off for 2 hours. It's okay to have that off time. You need that, especially to kind of recover your attention. So, the other thing I just want to throw out there, folks, is we are doing a new thing. We're trying to build scaffolding for you to, live this mission of your life. And I've been hard at work pulling together something called Wayseers Academy and a bunch of other pieces. And now we have a new Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Garrett. And inside it, what we're going to be doing is we have so much video material. We're just going to be pushing a lot of these classes and material either out directly through Patreon, through the archives in Patreon, or through Wayseers Academy, both of which are available through Patreon. So if you just go to patreon.com/GARRET, and the link is in the description here, like that is a way to support us and supporting you and take this all to the next level, because embracing your soul's mission in life is pretty freaking difficult. You need all the friends you can get, and B, it takes a lot of reminding, and C, it's like you're gonna hit some rough spots, and it's like, well, where do you go when you're hitting a rough spot and you're on a heroic journey? 9 out of 10 people will not understand where you're coming from. They're like, dude, why don't you just live a normal life? Why don't you just get a job, cut your hair, act normal? And you're like, I can't, it'll kill me inside. And they don't get that because they're not Wayseers types. They're not these exploratory, creative figures like you are, and not being heroes. Like, you are a natural born hero, but when you deal with normal people, they're not necessarily on a heroic journey, and they will shame you for being on one, and they will do everything in their power to make you feel bad for suffering the challenges of a heroic journey. Like, when you're being a hero, you are going to be challenged like a hero, and most people won't understand that, and they'll make you feel like you're being irresponsible or immature, or there's something wrong with you for going through the trials and tribulations of a hero. Well, that is complete rubbish. What you are going through is exceptional and beautiful and heroic and important to all of humanity, because all of humanity will benefit from the heroic love that you give by engaging in your journey. So the thing we're inviting you to do is have a tribe of like-minded people, like-minded heroic souls who will help you through your heroic journey. And when shit hits the fan and you're in the road of trials and tribulations, there will be people there who be like, yeah, I get it, man. Here, let me, throw you a bone. Let me give you some help. Even if it's just emotional support, it's like we can be there for each other. And in addition to that, we have a lot of resources that I've developed over the last couple decades where, things you wouldn't, like everything that school and society has taught you about the way you need to be in the world in order to be functional is probably absolutely wrong for you, because we all march to the beat of our own drummers, and there is a special kind of way of working when you are a creative type, when you are a creative soul on a heroic journey, that is completely diametrically different than what works for 9 out of 10 people. So if you think about it, everything that works for 9 out of 10 people is shoved down your throat because it works for 9 out of 10 people, and society just figures, well, we got it 90% figured out. That's an A. We're right. And they're telling you that that's the way to be. That's not the way to be at all. That is just what works for other people. What we're working on is what works for Wayseers, which is the Wayseer Manifesto is your 9-minute introduction to that. But trust me, it took me 10 or 15 years just to come up with the stuff that then we distilled into the Wayseer Manifesto. You only got a little piece of it. That is a piece of a bigger book called the Wayseers book. That book is actually available for you right on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/Garrett, Garret, that's 2 R's, 1 T, that book's available for you right there. But in addition to that, there is a mountain of material that I've been developing for Wayseer types, which is completely different than what would work for other people, but it'll work for you like magic. And I'll be I'll tell you a little story here. It's like the reason I developed this stuff originally was for my son, because I'll tell you a short story. I noticed that really successful entrepreneurs were doing all these things that I thought that I was really good at doing too, but I thought were wrong with me. Like, they exhibited traits and tendencies that I thought were wrong with me. They're using them to be successful entrepreneurs and creators. And as I saw Bill Gates acting that way, and I saw Ben from Ben & Jerry's acting that way, and then I was like, well, that's how I like to act, but I don't let myself act that way. That's what gave me permission to become a successful entrepreneur, is allowing myself to work these strengths that I had suppressed because I'd been told by the school systems and teachers and parents and society in general that you shouldn't act that way. You shouldn't trust your impulses. You shouldn't be impulsive. You shouldn't be creative. You shouldn't take those kinds of risks. Well, a lot of these things are really good for people like us. So once I started doing it and I was successful with it, and then my son was born, and he's like 2 years old, and he's exhibiting all of these traits, and I'm going, geez, if anything ever happened to me, like, I want to leave behind the resources for him to live a great life, to not feel ashamed for who and what he is, and to really work towards his strengths. So I've been developing this material ever since he was very small. Arguably even from before he was born, and now he's, close to 20 years old. So that's quite a while working with stuff, and that's like 20 years of going deep with this stuff that I want to give to you. And the best I can do right now is just put it all up as videos and books and audios and things like that. And so we're just taking this giant archive of material and pushing it up to wayseers.org, and then we've got wayseers.org connected to Patreon, so you can just get access to wayseers.org through Patreon. And again, that's patreon.com/Garrett. That's 2 R's, 1 T, and the link is in the description. All right, so what's next?
Can I just cheerlead you right now, Garrett? Can I just geek out? Because let me just tell you guys, this guy is bashful. I literally have to put a prod and poke his ass, put his stuff out. He's so sweet and such a giver. And he just wants to give and serve and love, and he always is hesitant to put this stuff out. So let me tell you right now, this is a moment we need to literally all as a community come together and support this man, because we as a tribe need this information. All of us have been moved by the videos he makes. All of us have been moved by the message and just the love and the wisdom that comes through. And I feel it's our turn to just give back. Demetrius is so cute on Facebook. He's saying that this is an epic live today. He's feeling it, Garrett. He's feeling it.
All right.
So
someone here, I'm just seeing right on our thing, sometimes it's really impossible to live normalness. I felt like a square in a triangle and got belittled because of my lack of academia. Right. And this is the thing. It's most great pioneers didn't do well with academia. You have everyone from Einstein, who supposedly failed math, to Richard Branson, who almost committed suicide because he was doing so bad in school. Now he's a billionaire. Bill Gates, who dropped out of school. Zuckerberg dropped out of school. Larry Ellison dropped out of school. Steve Jobs dropped out of school. You could just and those are well-known, billionaire types. Or legends, but then you've also got all the artists who probably dropped out of school, never even tried to go to school, and you can't put academia over yourself as some sort of valuation mechanism, because school does not know how to value people like you and me. And the reason it doesn't know how to value people like you and me is because you are a creator, you are an artist, you see things others don't. And that means that school is I'm going to give you a metaphor here, and this is out of my book, The Wayseers. School and most of society is blind, okay? So the reason I call our tribe Wayseers is because we see this ineffable thing called the way. And the way is, even from ancient Taoism, the Tao is, the translation is the way, and early Christianity was actually called the way. And so every great mystical tradition originally seems to have been called the way. And what that means is that there is some transcendent way that is beyond what we can see, feel, touch, measure. It's not something you can calculate directly scientifically. It is this intangible order to the universe, and it's something that you have the unique ability to sense, to see, and that gives you the ability to navigate life and the world in a way that others can't, because you can see things that others don't. So here's the metaphor. Imagine a world where everybody is blind, there just isn't a thing called vision. So 9 out of 10 people are blind, and they can't see anything, and so they go to these schools to learn how to navigate their world in a way that is appropriate for blind people. So they get their walking sticks, and they learn to count steps, and they learn to use their walking sticks to see what's out to sense what's out in front of them by knocking their sticks out ahead of as they walk. And they learn, okay, it takes 15 steps to the left and 300 steps to the right, and 25 steps to the left, and then 500 steps to the right to get to the post office, right? And that's the way you get from the school to the post office. And so you've got all of these blind people, classes kids, classes full of blind kids with a blind teacher learning how to pace their way to the post office. And then you get the ADHD or Wayseer child in that class that can just run straight to the post office. They don't need to count paces, and they can cut all the corners because they can see the post office and they can see where they're going. And the teacher is freaking out because this child is not counting their paces, and God, they're running. They could run off a cliff. And what is wrong with the psycho child? What is, this child has a disorder. They're hyperactive. They're distractible. They're not following instructions. They're not showing their work. What is wrong with this child who can see? That's the thing, is they don't realize this child has an extra sense that allows them to see the way, where they don't need to count paces, where they don't need to memorize how to go a particular way, where they don't need to be taught the formula and show their work, because they can just go there, make a beeline straight for the post office or the cafeteria or the playground or wherever they want to go. And it's you can see the way. And when you can see the way, nothing can stop you, at least not the need for a blind navigation walking stick and counting paces. You don't need that stuff. You never needed to learn that stuff. So school was a complete waste of your time, because all it was doing was teaching you to count your paces in one way or another and use that stick. and use echoes or some other way of like navigating your world in a way that's completely incompatible to your great gift, which is that you can see the way. So you don't need to do that stuff. You just need to have the courage to, when everybody is walking in line in a particular way, counting paces in a particular way, you need to have the courage to step out of line, step away from the crowd, and go where you can see it. You need to go. And they're going to yell at you, and they're going to call you crazy. And sometimes you might run into a ditch because you weren't paying attention, or because you haven't developed your vision as well as you could, because your whole life you've been taught to close your eyes and pretend like you're blind. Now it's time to open your eyes, realize you have this incredible transcendent vision that will lead you right into the most amazing expressions of genius, the most amazing expressions of transcendence, the most amazing transformative discoveries. You have the ability to just fall into those, to walk into those, to discover those, because you will see these little glimmers in your inner vision, in your mind's eye, that will say, this way, go this way, go this way, this is it. And when you do that, then it's like you are on this crazy transcendent mission from your soul. This is your soul saying go this way. This is your spirit saying, go this way. And that way is often nothing to do with the way that society would encourage or even allow you to go. So here you are with a heroic calling to follow that glimmer of spirit, that glimmer from your soul, that secret message from your soul, that secret mission from your soul that says, you know what, everybody's counting paces and going that way, but it's time to step out of line and go your own way and make it happen, because you've got this tremendous ability to see the way.
Goodness, Garrett, you couldn't be more on fire today. What has come over you? It's so good. All right, so Albert on Facebook says, Garrett, your book Da Vinci Method was a godsend, literally. It's sitting on my bookshelf right now. Thank you for listening to your calling and writing it. I love that he says that, because I feel like this is what makes Garrett, your work, so important, is that not only did you listen to your calling and you wrote this book that's changed someone's life, or you created the Wayseers Manifesto that's changed millions of lives, but it's like your work will then support other Wayseers in awakening to their calling and then doing their thing that changes other people's lives. Like, this is why it's so important to become awake, because when you do it, then you help somebody else do it, and then they help somebody else do it, and then it's just like the ripple effect is insanity. It's so awesome.
Yeah. And the Da Vinci Method was my first labor of love. That was the first time I stepped out of line in a major way, beyond even what I was comfortable with, to do something. Now, I felt the calling to write this book for my son. I was at some, personal growth workshop or insight kind of workshop where you're just like going deep within yourself and figuring out like what is your calling. And so my soul's calling at that moment was the question was, if you have 6 months left to live, what are you going to create during those 6 months? What are you going to do with those 6 months? Besides just loving your family and things like that, but like, what is the creation in you? What is the mission in you to do? And for me, it was write this book so that, with regards to this mind exercise, I'm supposed to be gone in 6 months. My kid would be like 2.5 or 3. I can't tell him this stuff. So it's like, at the time, the best way to communicate it would be put it in a book, and he could read it when he was 16 or 18, and then kind of that would set him free. And that's what the Da Vinci Method was supposed to be. So I wrote that. One of the things I found out, first of all, like the way I wrote it, most people with ADHD or sort of the creative types don't like to read or don't make it through books. One of the things I did was I wrote it in a special way that I felt like was really in alignment with the way I would want to read a book and the way I think most people of our tribe would read a book. And so I would get email after email of people who said, look, I have never finished a book in my life, and I called into work sick on day 2 of reading this and finished the book in 2 days. And I got a lot of things like that. So it works as a book. But I also found there was a lot of resistance for people who are just so used to not liking books that they wouldn't read it. So then we made it into an audiobook, which I prefer too. Like I now like listening to audiobooks. I'll go to the gym and I'll listen to an audiobook at 2 times the speed so I can just like plow through it. I love that. So there's an audiobook version available. That audiobook version is actually available for anybody who goes to Patreon. You could see it's right there. That's one of the things we're giving away on Patreon. So again, that's patreon.com/Garrett, Garret, 2 R's, 1 T. And you know, that's another way of digesting the material. It is like all that material is just one thing after another of stuff that I have found that works really well for the entrepreneurial, creative type, the mystic, the rebel, the risk taker, the wayseer. And then, you know, out of that, the Da Vinci method, just so you understand, it was using Leonardo da Vinci as an archetype for this type of person that you are. Highly creative, but didn't finish most of what he started. So he's like a genius, but so many unfinished works. Modern day Merlin, right? So he was like this mad genius who invented like helicopters 400 years ago, like, you know, invented modern medicine basically, you know, painted the most exquisite masterpieces, and yet he had the constant like inability to finish things, and he would get in trouble, and he would have trouble with money and things like that. And so that's why he had to become a defense contractor and design war machines. He probably didn't believe in killing and war, being a highly intelligent, enlightened soul, but he also needed to pay the bills, and he was always getting in trouble because he wasn't finishing what he started. And so here's this guy who had to kind of sell out and design war machines for the king, because that's what he could get paid for, what he could get commissioned for. Anyway, the point is, all that aside, he had all the temperamental qualities that you and I share as Wayseers. And so, but before I came up with the term Wayseers, which I think is much better because it's got a spiritual ring to it. It pulls from the Tao. It pulls from early Christian mysticism. It really resonates with this transcendent way that we're all open to seeing. Before that, I was like, well, how do we relabel these kids in a classroom that are right now being called disordered and troublemakers? What's a different label we can give them that will sort of subconsciously work on the teachers so that teachers could see the genius in them as opposed to the nuisance that they represent to them? And so Da Vinci types was the first label we used for Wayseers, and that's what the Da Vinci method was supposed to create, is this new way of labeling kids where you say, oh, he's not disordered. Don't say he's got ADHD, just recognize he's a Da Vinci type. You know, he's not a troublemaker. She's not a space cadet. They're Da Vinci types. And when you affirm that they're Da Vinci types to a child, that does two things. One, it's been shown that children respond very much to what you expect of them and what you call them. So calling them a type of genius, a creative genius, is much better than saying you've got ADHD, this disorder, but we'll medicate you and you'll be, you know, with some medicine we can make you okay again. Fuck that shit. Like, these kids are geniuses. They're just in a system that is not meant for them, right? So
fuck that shit.
Yeah, so it's like, no, this kid's a Da Vinci type, and like, respect their inherent genius, right? Like, that's the thing. And then the other thing is that teachers, and this was this video we put out a year ago, How You Change People. There have been studies that show that the way a teacher views a student significantly affects that student's performance and intelligence. Their IQ will actually go up or down based on the teacher's expectations of them. So again, having this label Da Vinci type, I thought would be very valuable, and it was a great first step at it. The only trouble was that people got carried away and just said, oh, I'm a genius, and they just became like these chaotic motherfuckers who like had no like sense of humility, or that there was any order that was beyond them. And so I think that narcissism can play into this. And so that's why I was like, wait a second. there's got to be a better way. There's got to be an acknowledgement that there is a higher power or a transcendent truth that we all have to honor and sort of submit to, that while society's rules and society's laws and society's expectations might not be something that you need to always be limited by, that there is some sort of higher law, higher power that you do need to honor. And that's where we kind of said, okay, let's shift it to Wayseer, because that sort of indicates, yes, you can see things others don't. You are a seer of the way. And just because you can see it doesn't mean you're acting on it. So there is the imperative to become sort of a way follower, a way doer, someone who exercises the way, internalizes the way, and operates through the way. So
it's so good. All right, so we got a couple people commenting. First of all, Keola, I want to say, what's up, girl? I see that you joined. That's my friend. I love that woman. Hello, girlfriend. Shout out to you. And then Larissa Ann says, this video resonates with me so much, as I never fit in at school or with society's expectations. I feel so inspired, and this video is exactly what I need to see and hear. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I cannot wait to read your book, Garrett. And she can get it at the Patreon link, right?
Yes. Yes, right to the Patreon link. All the books, audio books, everything. All of our material is just like heaped on over there. That's you know, this is kind of a leap of faith for me too, because this is what I feel called to do, which is to hold the space for Wayseers of the world to realize their greatness and to attune to this higher calling we all share. And at the same time, you know, I have bills to pay myself, and so I'll often get pulled away from making videos and sharing these truths to consulting and doing, you know, some sort of corporate work or what have you that isn't the same sort of spirit, doesn't have the same sort of richness of purpose that this does. But it immediately seems to pay the bills. It seems practical. So I'm on the journey with you. You know, while I'm saying you've got this heroic journey, this heroic calling, this secret soul mission that you need to discover and start following, I do too. This is my way of taking a step towards following it. If we're supported in following it, you'll see a lot more of me. If not, I'll go, you know, jump back into corporate America and do whatever I have to do to pay the bills. But I think that'll just suck for everybody. So hopefully,
that's right.
hopefully we can support each other in really transforming the world and bringing that transcendent vision that we all share to manifest. The world needs us. The world needs us. The world needs you. It needs you to do your work in this world, and your work is very likely to be something that's so iconoclastic, so strange, so different, so unusual, so transcendent that most people will not comprehend it when you first start bringing it out. But the cool thing is Wayseers will. Like, we naturally feel the ring of truth. We feel when somebody's onto something, and we can support you in that. And not only that, but there's a lot of tools that we're all collectively figuring out, and I just happen to be kind of at the center of a lot of the workshops on this because that's been my passion for decades now. So like, I just, you know, been collecting all these tools and truths and ways of doing things, best practices, shortcuts that work uniquely for Wayseers. In fact, you know, there was a gentleman who was obviously not a Wayseer who started a small business. It was a liquor store, and he was describing how he was doing things, and I was just like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. And he says, well, there are no shortcuts in life. And I'm just like, because he was saying like it was going to take him 10 years to pay off the bank for this like store he was opening, and you know, and that they'd basically be living hand to mouth for 10 years until finally they own their own liquor store. And I was just saying, like, I don't know, man, like, you know, maybe there's a better way of doing this. He's like, no, there's no shortcuts in life. And I was just like, God, Like, what a terrible concept to have embedded in your belief system, is that there are no shortcuts. There are fucking shortcuts all around us. There are shortcuts everywhere, and you can take shortcuts. And maybe when you can see the way, you see the shortcuts. And maybe when you're taught to count your paces, and use your blind walking stick, you might not be able to take a shortcut because you could fall into a ditch. So from this guy's perspective, there was no shortcuts in life. And I just felt like really sad for him and his situation. This was the beginning of his 10-year journey. Well, 10 years later, that liquor store doesn't exist. Like, they closed up shop. So like, this guy, you know, spent 10 years of his life suffering for this liquor store, and you know, he didn't even get the payday he was after. And I just like hate to think that maybe part of the reason he never made it and never got to his dream is because he had the belief that there are no shortcuts, and therefore he's trying to do it by the book, do it by society's rules. And you know what? Society's fucked. Like, I'm sorry, but all the rules of society, I would say, like, a lot of them just aren't real. They're not true. They're put there to exploit the masses so that people would do their factory jobs and work in the bureaucracies and conform to the system. Like, so a lot of these rules and a lot of the things that we're taught are not here to help us. They're here to, you know, support the military-industrial complex, which we all know is not something that we really want to support anymore. So what do we want to support? Maybe there's a better way. You're the one who will help us find it, and we want to help you. And so, you know, first thing is, like, get with us on Facebook, YouTube. You're subscribed, obviously, because that's how you're seeing this. That's step one. Step two is we got to just create more and more communion. And so that's why we've got Wayseers.org. That's why we've got the Patreon thing set up so that we can be more and more in touch. We're working on, like, figuring out how to do the Facebook group thing right. I think there's a lot of Wayseers who don't like the idea of building on Facebook. So that's why we have Wayseers.org, because that is an alternative to Facebook. But we're figuring this stuff out, and I would love to have you part of our journey to figure this out. So please join us. There are links in the description of this video that you can click, and you click that link and check it out. Just look at it. That's all I'm asking you to do, is just look at it and say, hey, does this feel right? Is this for you? If it does, hallelujah, because then we can collaborate. And that's, I think, what we all need right now, is more collaboration, cooperation, and communion between seers of the way. And we can kind of show each other the way a bit and support each other as we engage in our secret soul missions, our heroic callings.
That's right. I love it. Garrett, thank you. This is so good. I guess we're pretty much done for the day, but I just want to mention Albert's comment. Mm-hmm. He said, how do you explain to the normals that you're a Wayseer / Da Vinci type in a way that they don't turn off? And then he followed up with it by saying, sort of, he grew up with, like, a very creative father, but his mom and brother were in the box. He's over it, moved on, but he wants the world to create less negativity. And so he thinks our community would benefit from a playbook on how to deal with the normals.
So there are some plays. There is a playbook in the Da Vinci Method and a playbook in the Wayseers book. And these are plays that I figured out that will help you deal with normal types and help normal types respect the way you operate. However, I'm just going to couch this in some things. One thing I've noticed is that non-Wayseers cannot stand being told, or even the idea that you might have a mode of perceiving that they don't have access to. And so I have seen again and again and again and again normal types, normal people just so deeply offended and angry at the mere thought that these creative people have access to some transcendent truth or some inspired genius or some way of seeing that they don't have the same immediate access to. And therefore you will find they will constantly belittle you, and be offended by you and reject that notion anytime you try to put it forth, which is part of the reason that the Da Vinci Method, although it was a self-published bestseller and it sold, tens and tens of thousands of copies, you can even go look at the Amazon reviews, and they're either like 5-star reviews for people who are Da Vinci types, who are Wayseers, or like, a 2-star review from somebody who's very deeply offended at the notion that we're putting forward. And so that is the thing that you will run into again and again, is that you cannot expect normal types to respect that you operate differently, and to give you that respect, and to acknowledge that you might see something that they don't see. However, once you become successful and you have authority over people and them, that is when they will respect you. So, unfortunately, yeah. Well, and it's not just like, it's not, and I'm not saying that from like a power perspective. I'm saying that from Maslow. There was an experiment where they looked at, like, how could Nazi Germany have happened? Like, what is it that would allow, or what is it about human beings that would make it so that all of Germany could just say, yeah, we're going to just have a genocide. We're going to just kill these people. We're like, how could so many people sort of follow these horrific dictates of the Nazi regime? Well, what they found out through their experiments is that normal types will do whatever authority figures tell them to do, and they will believe whatever authority figures basically make them believe. Like, that is one of the things they found, that they could get normal types to literally electrocute someone, a perfect stranger, to death just because they have a guy in a white lab coat saying, please proceed, I take full responsibility, I'm in charge here, you just need to do what you're told. 9 out of 10 people would kill another human being based on that dictate from an authority figure. Like, that's insane. That's not something that Wayseers would do. Okay? Yeah. Wayseers would be like, no, I have a greater authority, my heart and soul, that says I'm not going to kill this perfect stranger in the other room who's saying, please stop the electric shocks, you're killing me. And the device literally is saying lethal voltage, and the person's saying, and the guy in the white lab coat is saying, please proceed, press the button. And like, this experiment has been repeated dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times, all over the world. Every single time, 9 out of 10 people, the normal types who can't see the way, will just blindly follow this authority figure to the point of executing another innocent human being who they don't even know, because they were told to by an authority figure. So, you want normal types to listen to you? Become an authority figure. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just become an authority figure who has authority over them, and they will listen to you to the ends of the earth. They will do whatever you say, because now you are speaking as the system, the authority, and they are programmed to blindly trust and adhere to what authority figures tell them. So there's your answer. Become an authority figure. Now, there's another piece of this. But there's another piece to this, and the other piece is that even Jesus couldn't preach in his own hometown, okay? So Jesus, being sort of an ultimate authority figure, I mean, dude's saying, yeah, my dad's the boss, right? It's like, okay, you don't get an authority figure much bigger than that. You are the Son of God, your dad's the boss, okay, but you go back to Nazareth, they're not listening. And why are they not listening? Because the other thing is, normal types can't like reprogram their ideas about you. And so if they met you when you were a child and you didn't have the authority of self-transcendent, or the authority of transcendent truth ringing through you, or even if you did but you're a child, like, that's all they're ever going to know you as, is like, you're just that child who it doesn't have any authority. So then if you want to, like, if you come back and you've got all the authority in the world, you're still going to find that they are incredulous at that authority, unless you really flex that authority. They're probably still going to just regard you as that child or authorityless person that they met you as. So that means if you want normal types to respect you and see your greatness and see the truth that you're offering them, you're going to have to go to first get your shit together, get your, transcendent truth, your, higher authority, your connection to a higher authority, that like resonant connection to the great light, the great love, the higher power. Like, get that really strong. You'll feel goosebumps, frisson, like you'll be on fire and electric when you're really in connection with your true self. And that higher power kind of gives you this transcendent authority, this transcendent genius. Now, when you really got that together and you go and you start creating something through that, with that will start to generate a power base, a power structure where you will have great authority. But chances are you're going to need to do that away from old friends and family, because the old friends and family are just going to keep beating you down. So just like get out from underneath them, get away from them, go do this on your own somewhere else where people don't know you, and they will start to regard you as that new you that you have become, that new authority figure that you are becoming. And then you can really sort of anchor that and become that. And when you become that, that is when you'll find that these people, these normal people in your life, start to give you the respect that you deserve, because now, frankly, you've earned it too. You've shown the world, you've shown yourself that you can create something of immeasurable value, and that's important.
That's important. All right, guys, I think we did it. I mean, this is pretty solid, Garrett. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have a lot more of this. Oh, by the way, we are doing this twice a week. So we're doing the live public one Wednesdays around this time, around 3 p.m. New York time, but we're also doing a private live stream video where you can like jump in with your voice, with your video, and actually participate in this. Like, instead of like having to type little messages that we show right here, it's like, you can actually be in the dialogue with us, and that's what we want to create. But we're going to keep that private, so that it's only people who have shown that they're not going to be trolls, that have actually like contributed to the work we're doing, and shown sort of an authentic, earnest desire to participate and contribute in a positive way. And so join us through patreon.com/Garrett, Garret. And every Friday we'll do a live stream that Patreon makes it possible to keep private. And through that live stream, we're going to have it so that you can kind of jump into the live stream. We'll be able to hear your voice. We'll be able to speak back and forth with each other. We'll be able to bring people in on video, and it'll be a much more intimate experience, where it's much more like a dialogue than just us, preaching to you while you have to type your messages in. You'll be able to speak them and speak your truth and share your truth, and we can work together and talk about like real stuff. And we'll also know that we're in a safer place that's not like all over Facebook and YouTube, that's contained within our nuclear community, so we can really share with each other and say things that we might not otherwise want to say out in the greater public. Yeah, so that's available to you at patreon.com/Garret, Garret, 2 R's, 1 T, and the link should be in the description of this live stream, so you can just go there, click that link, join us Friday 3 p.m. New York time. We're going to do this again, but we're going to do it like not so much preachy. It's going to be much more like, let's hang out, let's talk, let's have a real conversation, let's dig into some stuff, let's figure out what's going on in your life, and like how some of these perspectives can actually totally transform the way you go about your life, so that you are fully on your heroic journey, living life to the fullest and manifesting that divine authority that is inherent in you.
Damn, Garrett, drop the mic, officially drop it right now. Just do it.
Boom.
All right, you guys, thank you. you for being with us. This was great. Please join us on Patreon. We'd love to jam with you on Friday. And until next time, I guess we'll see you on the next one.
All right. See you later. God bless you.